3, 2, 1. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Money in the Law on My FM 101.3, your hometown radio station here in Milford, Massachusetts. And Money in the Law is your hometown show with Hometown Jay Marson from the Marson Law Group, and I'm John Drohan from
your hometown lawyer, right here.
Main Effort Financial, your hometown retirement planner, right here. If you want to retire in your hometown,
right here.
Call,
this is it. That's right. You want to go outside the four corners of the town.
Good
You're
luck.
on your own. You're on your own.
Right? And then, of course, we have our hometown TV station right here, represented by none other than our guy Tom Harmon, the third leg of the stool, right? Yeah. Tommy, good to see you.
Yeah.
And this is it, Money in the Law, your show. You listen to Money in the Law every Saturday.
Your show.
And you watch it also on the Holliston Hub.
Here to serve. We serve. Live to serve.
We serve, and because what we do, just to kind of refresh everything, is we provide you information that you absolutely need to know.
Critical.
Absolutely need to know.
Critical information.
However, oftentimes that information, you don't know how to get it. It's almost like, what do I search?
There's too much information out there. How do I break it down?
Where do I start?
To digestible.
It's like
pieces.
Yeah, it's like you know where you want to be.
Yeah.
You know where you want to be.
Yep.
You just need a little bit of help and guidance to kind of get you on that path to get you to where you want to go.
You're at this end of a 6-foot sub. You know you got to be there. You get to the other end of it, and you don't know how to do it.
You
just know it's going to be a long, slow. Just get through it.
But it's going to be good. But it's going to be good. It's going to be delicious.
It's going to be nutritious.
Yep.
And it's going to be mentally stimulating.
It's going to make you feel good. It may make you a little tired.
Yeah, you might be a little sleepy at the end because you've consumed so much knowledge. We get that a lot. So.
But you're going to enjoy it, right?
Yeah, you are.
You're going to enjoy it. And you know what?
And you're going to tell your friends about it.
And you know what you might do as well is you might have a beer with that or some other kind of form of enjoyable
other libation.
Exactly.
Some other libation.
Exactly.
Especially here in the summertime where, libations kind of are just running amok.
Almost running too much of amok.
Yes.
Almost run. Yeah.
There's no threat of scurvy this summer. I can tell you that right now.
So speaking of which, we last night. So for those of you who know, speaking of just dodging the scurvy bullet. We tape the show on Wednesday. So this is Wednesday for the Saturday show. Yes. So on a Tuesday, like right in the middle of the week, not even like it's in the beginning of the week.
Yes.
We had an important softball meeting.
Oh boy.
An emergency softball meeting. And because what's happening is, of course, we have our spring softball season in Holliston. Greatest kept secret, best secret in all of Holliston is old man softball. We're still waiting for Jay to at least join it, at least just kind of show up after a game.
Yeah, one season.
Show up and just right, because you're a golfer, you're an athlete.
Oh,
right?
Totally out there. Yeah, totally,
I mean, your brother-in-law plays. He's he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. I've been willing.
Oh yeah, he's a legend. Yeah.
So anyway, we also have, but the best part about, or one of the great things about our softball world is that we have a fall season, right? So the fall season is kind of like, and there's what we do is we mix everybody up. It's a big scramble. So all the players that sign up for fall, they don't play on the same team that obviously they play in the spring. So everybody plays on different teams. So it's a big draft, and it's kind of exciting because, just like in any draft, who's going, sooner rather than later. So me and several of my friends, people that you know very well, we were like, hey, you know what? Let's kind of guess. Let's see who's going to go where. So last night we did the first ever fall ball mock draft.
There we go.
Oh my goodness. Oh my. And it was better than I could have imagined.
Better than it could have been scripted.
Right. Yeah, because what happens is you do the deep dive. You do the analysis. You say that guy, right? What can he do? And then the other thing is you have to kind of be in the minds of the captains. Like, would that guy pick that guy? I don't know. I don't know if that guy likes this guy plays on the same team as that guy. He's not going to play with him in the fall.
I imagine this experience looks much like that scene in Moneyball, right? Where
everybody's sitting around.
Where they're all sitting around the table talking about the attributes of of what they do, and they're joking about all these different things.
I point to them.
And then they're just throwing.
Why is that? Yeah.
Throwing names on a board, throwing magnetic names on a board. That's what I'm expecting this looks like.
Was there a whitebote? I think there was.
I'm sure there was. I'm sure there was.
Anyway, so that's why, and my wife.
That's why you were late today?
Well, my wife said, she's like, how long does the mock draft take? I said, it could
take hours.
It could take all night.
Could be all night.
It could go all night. So
it's a war room.
So and so tonight is the actual draft.
Okay.
Tonight is the actual draft. So we'll see if our projections will will actually come out. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, I'll stay glued to my phone. I can't wait.
We'll fill you in.
Sounds
We'll
riveting.
fill in everybody next week.
Great.
All right.
Wow.
So, and you? What's new with you? Why were you early?
I wouldn't even venture to offer up a suggestion that would come anywhere near to topping
I just had to tell you.
that experience
true.
right there. There's nothing I could talk about that would even match that level of energy.
Well, I got something that you're going to talk about today that has to do with the topic of the show that I bet will match or maybe even surpass that energy that I just presented.
I'm ready.
And so as I'm preparing for the show, last week or
as
last
we
month,
are wont to do. Yep.
As I'm preparing for the show, I'm thinking, what do I want to know? Like if I turn the show, I'm like, what are these guys talking about? What would I want to? And one of them is a lawyer, and I have a question about what do I want to know? And wait, what's this guy's speciality? Oh, he's an elder law. He's a state planner.
Yeah.
He can walk and talk Medicaid as smart as anybody, right?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
So let's say I'm me. I'm a 50-something-year-old guy, and I'm like, Medicaid, and then I kind of know that, my parents, they have this trust, and they told me about it. I'm not really, yes, I know it, I kind of know what a trust is, but they're like, it's a trust to protect the house. And you're like, okay, well, that's cool.
What's that mean? Yep.
I guess, what does that mean? So I guess what I want to know, if I'm just the average listener, I want to know, can you talk me through kind of like the Medicaid, like the preparation and why I need to prepare for Medicaid? Why I need to kind of put myself in a position, because truly there may be a chance I may never ever need Medicaid.
This may never happen. You may never show up on the doorstep of a nursing home. You're 100% right.
That may never happen. And then there's the chance that if I do, I may never be in a position to apply for Medicaid. So all of this, like, oh, you got to buy long-term care insurance, or oh, you got to put your house in an irrevocable trust, and all this, you gotta. I want you to help the audience frame up what's going to put you in a position where you need to do that. Like when you're going to say, hey, listen, someone comes into your office and say, hey, I'm really worried about this. And then, what's the criteria where you say, okay, the guy's I got $20 million and I'm really worried about it. And you're like, okay, this is the least of your worries, right?
Yeah.
Or someone comes in and they say, I have $1 million, all in with between the value of my house, between my cash, and between my retirement. I'm nervous about this because I've seen this happen, or I've heard about this happening. So how does this frame up in order for me to kind of make some decisions and start preparing for this, or at least putting myself in a position where I'll be able to deal with it if and when that comes?
All right.
What do you think?
We can do it. It's funny. It's funny. So Tommy says to me before the show, when we were waiting for you, he says, "What are you guys going to talk about today?" And I said, "You know what's on my mind?" I said, "What you need to do to hand to God, Tommy.
Come on.
Tell me I'm a liar.
Stop.
If I'm a liar."
Stop.
I said to him, "Hand to God." I said, "We should talk about what you need to do 5 years out if you're thinking that Medicaid is in your future, right?" So this is not rehearsed, ladies and gentlemen. Like this is the planets lining up. It's almost like we should do a show together.
You studied for the quiz.
It's almost like that.
And I did see Jay yesterday. We saw each other yesterday at the gym, where because both of us spend a little too much time.
You can tell we spend way too much time.
That's
there.
one of the things we get.
Way too much time.
Too much time at the gym.
Constantly criticized. You're at the gym again.
Guys, is this your second time today?
Again,
Yeah,
double workout, double sessions.
All the time.
Is it double sessions?
And believe it or not, that this subject of what we were going to talk about today didn't even come up.
No, I know that's right.
Magic.
That's
All
right. Well, we're so in the zone for the workout.
Yeah.
It's hard.
You got to focus. You got to one thing at a time.
Yeah. Come on.
So we're going to take a quick break. And we're going to come back. We're going to dive into this. So everybody's going to learn. So pay attention. If you're at home and you can take some notes, you might want to grab a piece of paper and write
grab
some
a couple
of this
pieces
stuff
of
down.
paper.
There you go. All right.
Yep.
All right. We'll be right back.
And we're back. My FM 101.3. Jay Marsden with the Marsden Law Group. John Drohan, Man Effort Financial. And Tommy's on the bag today. We are talking all things law, all things money, not necessarily in that order. And today, per our previous conversation before the break, we're going to dive into a little bit about we're going to demystify Medicaid. You can even use that as a show title. But
Medicaid
that's what you should put at the top of your list.
Medicaid that's kind of the end state here, right? It's like we may need to put ourselves in a position. We may be in a position someday where we may need Medicaid. We may need be in a long-term care situation where our only option or our eventual option would be to apply for Medicaid.
Yeah, and let's get this out of the way right away. Medicaid. Medicare is your health insurance.
I love it. I love
Everybody
it.
gets it at 65 for the most part. We're not going to dive into the details on that. Why they make them sound almost the same, I don't know. But Medicare is your health insurance. You will keep your health insurance. You will keep your Medicare if you ever go down the path and need to be on Medicaid. You would be called a dual eligible. You might get sick. You might go to the hospital. You might fall. You might break a shoulder. You might blow a rotator cuff. Medicare pays for your health care.
Yeah.
Medicaid is usually what you use to cover the cost of your long-term care stay at the nursing home. What does that mean? Well, that means you went to a nursing home, somebody went to a nursing home, somebody went to a SNF, a skilled nursing facility, whatever you want to call it. And when you were there, you weren't there because you blew out your shoulder, you weren't there to have a knee rehabbed. When you're there for those reasons, you'll get better and you'll leave. You'll go home. You'll get your knee rehabbed. They'll send you home. You'll have a nice scar to share with all your friends at the pool down in Florida. And
Make
you
sure
will
you put
be
sunscreen on that.
Yep, that's right. Absolutely, absolutely. But you will be on your way out the door. You're not staying. When we talk about a nursing home, we talk about Medicaid, we talk about a scenario where somebody needs 24/7 care at a nursing facility.
I can't take care of myself anymore.
That's
I
right.
can no longer take care.
That's right.
And it's not I can't take care of myself because I'm injured
Yep.
or because I'm ill and I'm going to recover.
Right, because I had hip replacement, I had knee replacement. It's none of that.
I'm at the point where I no longer can care for myself and I need help.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And the other options of help, like maybe someone coming into my house,
Yep.
or me going to maybe not quite an assisted living facility, those, for whatever the reason is, those aren't enough,
Yep.
or I can no longer afford it, or I need more. I need
right.
more. So that's the thing, and it's important to understand is the Medicaid piece. That's nursing home,
Yes.
right? That is nursing home. That is, like you said, like a 24-hour skilled nursing facility that you have no other option.
This is now your residence. You're moving to this facility, moving to the nursing home, and putting aside what we all know that we'd like to avoid this if we can. So we're going to get that off the table, or we're going to talk about this in a very sort of matter-of-fact way, but we're not being cavalier about the decision-making that goes into that. At some point, your care needs just get to the point. You might have late-stage dementia. You might be really in a situation where that's the right medical setting for you to need to be in a nursing home. And if you get to that point where you need that care, you're going to have basically two options for the most part. You're going to private pay, and this is the horror story. This is what my entire industry, promotes, that you need to get all your planning done, because they're going to say to you, and we're not making this up, it's about $15,000 a month for you to be
and could
in
be
a
more
nursing home.
depending
on your
the
skill
place.
level and what you need.
Yep.
But use that as a number, right? So it's $180,000 a year to be at a nursing facility if you need that level of care. And that's what terrifies people.
Yep.
That's where people say, okay, and then they do the math and they go, $180 a year for 10 years, that would be $1.8 million. For 5 years, it would be, $900,000. That's going to destroy any legacy that I thought I was going to try to leave for my family, for my loved ones, kids, grandkids, whatever it's going to be, or for my spouse.
Exactly.
That's
right.
the piece that people worry about.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about those numbers really quickly. So let's say that's it. All right. So go back to my original example, or where someone's got $20 million. If I have $20 million and it's going to cost me $180,000 a year, good luck.
Well,
I'm not going to outrun that. Right.
That's an excellent point. That's kind of how I started to frame this when we were talking about it in the beginning. Let's talk about the demographics.
Yeah.
Right. You bring up a great point. All right. If you're listening to the show, this is how Medicaid looks at a married couple, all right? Married couple, the spouse who's not in the nursing home gets the house. Medicaid doesn't take the house. The nursing home doesn't take the house. You're allowed to have a house. And the spouse in the house, that's how we refer to you, is allowed to have about $150,000.
It's so Dr. Seuss.
It is very Dr. Seuss. The whole thing is Dr. Seuss. So, and the spouse house gets to have $150,000. So, husband and wife, you want to apply for Medicaid. The spouse who's not in the nursing home gets a house and $150,000, and they get to keep all their income.
Well, let me back you up even more.
Go ahead.
All right, just to dumb this down. Okay, so what Jay's talking about is when you actually apply for Medicaid, it's because, again, for my own Cro-Magnon clarification, me or my spouse or somebody has to go into a nursing home.
Yeah.
It's time for a nursing home. The nursing home says, yes, we have a bed for you, we have space for you. Here's how much it costs. It costs $15,000 a month.
Correct.
Okay, and then you say, okay. And the nursing home says, someone is going to pay this if you're going to stay. Don't worry, it's a bill you have to pay. So then you say, okay, well, let me look at my income, right? Because before that I'm living on income.
Yeah,
I get Social Security, pension.
Maybe a pension. Yep, that's right.
Okay, so let's say I have an income. Let's say my income all in is $5,000 a month. So that's my income. It's what I make per month. And remember, I'm moving, right? I'm moving. I'm going to live here, right? Now, if I'm married, that's $5,000 a month that me and I share with my spouse. So that's an important thing. So it's like, okay, no matter what, this bill has to get paid. And then you get to the point where you're like, okay, I need to apply. I need to pay this. And if I have,
and you have two choices. You can keep writing a $15,000 check every month out of whatever money you have until there's no more $15,000 checks, or you begin the process of saying, I think we're going to need to apply for Medicaid.
But I will write that check. I will write a check if I have more than the numbers that you're talking about, right?
Yeah, maybe depending on the conversation that you have with your lawyer. But yes, you are correct.
Right. So most likely, I will have to position myself in order to apply for Medicaid and have the state pay for my nursing home or assist me in paying, because that's what they're going to do, right? They're going to assist you. If it's just me and I'm by myself and I make $5,000 in Social Security and my pension, guess what? That's going to the nursing home.
That's right.
Right? The state's not. It's not like, hey, it's 50, we're not paying the whole tab. Like, okay, how much you get per month? Okay, there you go. And then and you have now worked your whole portfolio, everything that you own down to the numbers that Jay's going to talk about.
Well, and this is how you should think about it. If you're applying for Medicaid, and we always use beginning of the month because it's easy. If you wanted your benefits to start, if you needed your benefits to start August 1, okay, those numbers that I just gave you are important because the house and the 150 is what the spouse is allowed to have. The person going in the nursing home is allowed to have no more than $2,000, okay? And then the income of the person going in the nursing home is supposed to go to the nursing home as the part of their cost for their care, and the spouse in the house can keep whatever income they have. So think about it, right? You get two people, pick on the husbands. Husband goes to the nursing home, he can't have more than $2,000. Wife stays home, she stays in the house, which she's allowed to keep. She gets to keep $150,000, okay? Think about that like a picture, like a snapshot. That's what this picture needs to look like when we apply for Medicaid for you to be eligible in that situation. Medicaid looks at both of you, husband and wife, but on August 1, if that's when we want your benefits to start, that's what the picture needs to look like. So stop right there. That's step one. That's what you need. That's what your whole situation needs to look like when you say, we want our Medicaid benefits to start August 1.
Now my application's gone in before this, right?
No, this is usually when your application would go in.
Okay.
Then what's going to happen is Medicaid's going to say, okay, Jay, we looked at the picture you gave us.
They know Jay at Medicaid down there. Oh, hey, Jay, how's it going? Nice
we're
to see
super
you.
popular.
Yeah.
They say, we looked at the picture you gave us, and it looks exactly like you told us. Dad has $2,000. Mom has a house. Mom has $150,000.
Let's take a closer look.
That's wonderful. We have one quick question. What happened in the 60 months, the 5 years prior to you showing me that picture? How did you get here?
Yeah.
How did you get here financially?
Yep.
That's what the 5-year look back means. You said, look, we're eligible. Over here, you're waving your paperwork around. Look at, we have, the numbers totally match up for us to be eligible. We should be good, right? And Medicaid goes, stop right there. Hold on. Show us how you got there.
And then the shrewd lawyer and the shrewd will say, don't worry, client. I'm shrewd. I understand this. These guys will never find that money. They'll never be able to. And then they say, wait a minute. The Medicaid guys, the guy who's got the glasses down the end of his nose, he's going to be like
the green eye shade on.
Yeah. I know where everything is. I can find anything, right? So my point is that you have to be. It has to be legit. It has to be. It has to be legit, and it has to be within the law, and it has to be. So if you are trying to get yourself to a position where you can qualify for Medicaid, then there's certain things you can do, and based on that 5-year look back, and there's certain things that you can't do.
That's right.
Where Medicaid's going to say, you're not qualified. You can't give away, $500,000 that you gave to your children a year ago, because guess what? That's part of the 5-year look back.
Well, this is like a tax audit, right? This is what we tell all of our clients. This is like a tax audit. You are 100% correct. The rules, the regs lay out. These are all things you can do with your money, okay? And as long as you follow the rules, then you're fine. There are some things that we do for clients that we literally pull the curtain back and we say, look, Medicaid's going to see that we did A, B, and C, and they're going to be fine with it, because you know why? Because the rules say that we can do A, B, and C, and so we're going to do that. Some of the things are going to be things that we didn't know about. You came to us and said, hey, we did this 2.5 years ago, and we think it's going to be a problem. It might show up on the radar screen when Medicaid goes through this, and the answer is it might. I don't know the answer to that, because this process is very caseworker driven. So when you file for Medicaid, depends on who you get as a caseworker. Some caseworkers care about A, some caseworkers care about B, some caseworkers don't care about A or B, they care about C. We don't know that until we apply.
And then there's kind of the, like the 10,000-foot view, like the overall look. So if you say, if you're sitting in a $5 million house that's, and all like nice stuff, the Medicaid bill, like, okay, I see this. I kind of see, sure. I see what I see. So show me how we got to this. Show me how you got to $150,000 spouse, right? And they're going to look, and they're going to say, nope, I need to see this tax return. I need to see this. I need to see these bank statements. I need to see these brokerage statements.
Yep.
So I can understand kind of where, like, because you're not going to hide it. You're not going to really be. You're not going to be able to hide it in a way where you're not staying within the letter of the law, and have that and take the chance that those guys are not going to find it.
Well, I mean, think about it. These guys do this for a living, right? This is not about. I mean, this is about saying, look, did you follow the rules? This is not a gigantic gotcha.
It's not we're trying
exercise.
to. It's not we're trying to have people not qualify for
Medicaid.
Right.
That's right. If you follow the rules, you follow the rules. This is government money, federal money that they give to the states, and they say to the states, you administer it. And so the states are saying, well, look, we have to have some rules for who gets this money, how we get this money. This is every government program you go to, right? If you qualify, you qualify. If you don't, you don't. But you kind of started the conversation out to say, well, there's going to be some people that this is just never in the mix for, right? There's going to be some people who are never in the mix for. And this is going to be for folks who have, again, I just gave you those numbers. I just said to you, you and your husband, to be eligible for Medicaid, you have to have $2,000 and $150,000. That's the numbers. Okay?
And a house.
And
right?
a house.
And a
okay.
house. And it doesn't matter if your house is paid for or not. It's just your house,
that's
right?
Right. That's right. And that's like whether we pay for it, that's part of the strategy. But the idea is this. We see this all the time. Clients come in and they say, Jay, we worked at, kind of big corporate gigs for a long, long time. We've amassed sizable retirement dollars, right? And so when somebody comes in and says, well, I have $2 million in my IRA and my spouse has $1 million in their IRA and we have $400,000 in a brokerage account and our house is paid off and I have a pension and Social Security and they have a pension and Social Security, I will say to those folks, okay, guess what? We're never going to be in the Medicaid business for you.
You're not going to be in a position where you're going to qualify.
That's right.
It'll just, theoretically you could, right, if you're in a nursing home for 20 some odd years,
yes.
But the odds of that happening are slim to none.
No, and I think that this is an important factor when you're kind of going through this process, because people come in all the time and they rush right to the irrevocable trust because they've been told by their friends and their colleagues that they need to get the house out of their name and this and that. And we will sit down and we'll have a conversation and we'll talk it through and we'll talk about the numbers. And then the answer is, look, and then I will say to them, for you to be eligible for Medicaid, you will have to have $150,000 and you will have to have $2,000. Now, when you come into that scenario where you've got sizable retirement dollars and an investment portfolio outside of retirement,
you got money,
and you have a house, not only do you have money, but you've become very used to having money.
Yeah.
Right? and dare I say, you probably like having money.
Not only you like having money, you like having, and as important or more importantly, you like having control of your money.
Yep, and you like to spend the money,
you
right?
like to be able to spend it when you want. Exactly.
Because, and I'm not saying that you're sort of like, you're not living like, off the grid, crazy. I'm just saying that you've got a certain lifestyle that for all the right reasons, you have become accustomed to. And for me to get you to the point where this would make sense, to have to literally divest yourself of massive amounts of your wealth to be in it just may not work for you.
Yeah.
And so you just have to kind of come to the understanding that either we're going to look for another solution, which might be a long-term care insurance policy, which you mentioned, or another solution might be we're just going to self-insure, right? Because we have the resources, and maybe the solution is
meaning we're going to pay for it.
That's right.
If we get there,
that's right.
If we get if the
if it ever comes to pass, that's right.
Then you know what, we're going to pay for it, and that's an important thing, right? That's and we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back. Why that's important? Why it's important to understand. Like, look, if the advice is, hey, I wouldn't do. If I were you, I wouldn't go through the trouble, because the chances of you getting of actually qualifying for Medicaid are very, very remote.
Well, when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about what the biggest disqualifier or the biggest challenge would be for getting somebody eligible for Medicaid, and we'll talk about it when we get back from the break.
The biggest. All right.
Hang on the edge of the seat.
Don't
it's a big
go away.
one.
Don't go away. Saturday morning. We'll be right back.
And we're back. My FM 101.3. Jay Marsden with the Marsden Law Group. John Drohan, Main Effort Financial. Tommy's on the bag as we walk around the course here, talking Medicaid talking about the whole piece of the puzzle. Here's what we were talking about before the break, was this whole idea of whether or not you're even in the hunt to be even eligible for Medicaid, right? So the biggest challenge that we run into planning for clients for Medicaid is your probably favorite account, John, the retirement account.
My favorite account.
Yeah, because why? Here's why. This is why. Everybody pay attention. This is important. This is important. There's a 5-year look back. We talked about it a couple minutes in the show. When you apply for Medicaid, Medicaid says, show me how you spent your money for the previous 16 months, previous 5 years.
I mean, right now they say,
show me the money. Love it.
Say it with me, Jerry. Say it with me, Jerry.
Say it loud, Jerry. Say it loud. Show me the money.
Show me the money.
So
say it like you mean it.
So what happens is there's no 5-year look back for transfers of assets between spouses.
No.
So listen again. No 5-year look back between spouses. I can literally be driving somebody to the nursing home, and I can pass the money back and forth, husband to wife to husband, spouse to spouse. It doesn't matter. That does not qualify as a disqualifying transfer as part of that 5-year look back. But wait, the problem is that example I gave earlier, when you have two spouses who have sizable retirement dollars.
I cannot give you my retirement.
I can give you my IRA.
What's the I stand
but you
for?
only get it when I'm gone.
Yeah. The I stands for individual.
That's right.
That's right.
That's
individual.
right.
So people say, well, why can't I be on that account too? Well, you can't, because it's an individual retirement account. Yep.
So that's
one person.
So that's a big deal. Clients come in all the time. They're worried about the house, and then they have giant retirement accounts or sizable retirement accounts. And I say, look, we have a problem here. The problem is, if you have $2 million IRAs and I want to give the husband's IRA to the wife, okay, there may be a scenario where that makes sense, but it goes with this conversation. It's $1 million IRA. We're probably going to give the feds and the state somewhere between $250 and $300 right off the top to liquidate the husband's IRA and give it to the wife as part of the Medicaid plan.
Yeah,
it's a problem.
So right, but then again, if the goal is to qualify for Medicaid, right? Remember what the stipulation is. How much is my wife allowed to have?
$150,000.
So if I just give her $1 million, take the less taxes, I give her $700,000. she's not qualifying
No.
anytime soon.
No. Now, if she has a big IRA on top of that, that's a real problem. If she, for some reason...
That's a big problem.
That's a big problem.
Oh, no,
That's
we
right.
have too much money.
From a Medicaid
Happens all the
perspective, it's a
time.
problem. But let's say that's not the case. Let's say that one of the spouses has the bulk of the retirement wealth and the other one doesn't have any. There may be an argument that says, look, we're willing to write a $300,000 check to the feds because we think the long-term care costs in this nursing home at $15,000 a month are going to be more than the cost of the taxes to protect this money.
Yeah, so remember, just understand the reason that you're doing this, the reason that you would do this sizable transfer from one spouse to another is, or a transfer into an era is because of the 5-year look back.
Correct.
So it's all based on so you're kind of looking forward 5 years. So potentially, if we do this, outside of 5 years, we have a 5-year gap in between, and one of the two spouses potentially could be in a Medicaid situation or be in a long-term care situation, then our planning, we may have, and we have been able to kind of get that income or get that money out of that person's name and have the 5 years look back.
Right. So if you're listening to the show, there's a population that are listening to the show that say to themselves, you know what, we fit in that category, right? We have sizable retirement accounts. I don't know if we're willing to take the tax hit on something like this. It would really be situationally specific. You'd have to say to me, look, we think my loved one's going to be in a nursing home for 10 years, and we think that paying the taxes could be worth it. We don't know. You're dealing with people's health. So that's one avenue where there's a bunch of folks who sit down and say, just based on our assets alone, we are unwilling or we're not going to be able to spend down or rearrange the deck chairs to get to that $2,150 number, right? So those folks, for those of you listening, that's your scenario. You're self-insuring, you're buying a long-term care insurance policy, or you're just throwing the dice. You're going to bring care in the home. Maybe you go assisted living facility, memory care unit if it's a cognitive issue, but you're not going to be in the, Medicaid's not in your future, is my point. Now, there's the other side of that spectrum where there are folks who are listening to this who say, look, you know what? We have a house, we have some pension money, we have some Social Security money, and we don't have that gigantic pool of wealth. We don't have that gigantic nest egg.
But we have some money,
We have
right?
some money, yep. Those are the folks that this type of planning, irrevocable trust planning, doing something with some money, this is where this planning here is very, very valuable.
Could be.
Could be, yep.
Could prove
Because
to be very
if your
valuable.
goal is to leave a legacy and you think that the house is really the legacy, this is where putting things in an irrevocable trust, getting things out of your name. And when we say putting things in an irrevocable trust, it's usually your house because you got to live somewhere, right? Doesn't have a real impact on your life. You're still going to cut the lawn. You're still going to, paint the shutters. You're still going to do all the work that you're doing anyway. So things don't feel that different. You've put your house in this sort of protected status, but you're going to continue to live there. And the goal is that, you don't leave until they carry out feet first. That works really, really well because moving your assets around.
Can't wait for that day.
But moving your assets around is not a huge lift like it is, when you have these other, big retirement accounts and things like that. That can be a problem from a Medicaid planning perspective.
Well, think about it, right? So, and you touched on this before. Is someone who has, you've worked your whole life. You're retired. You have money.
Sure.
You're used to. You live comfortably, right? You importantly, you have control of all of your money. You have control of all of your assets. So you and you joke, we'd say that, oh yeah, you're used to living like kind of however you want to live. But how about most of the clients that I have that are in that situation? They flip a nickel over 4 times before they spend it because they got there because they're really smart and they're frugal and they don't spend a lot of money. But what they do is every night when they go to bed, they're like, if I need to write $1 million check tomorrow, I can. Will I ever? No.
Yep.
But my comfort, I have security in the sense that I have the money that I've saved up, and I can do what I want with it. If I want to give it to my children, I can do that.
Who this scenario applies a lot to are people who have worked in different various organizations where a pension, because they're still out there. I know everyone thinks they've gone away, and they've gone away for like the younger guys, but there's older people out there and there's folks who are retiring now who are still part of some pension system. So these are folks who say, look, I have a house that's paid for. I got a couple of bucks in the bank. I don't have $1 million in the bank. But you know what I do have? I have this pension. And you know what? I'm going to get a check for $7,000 a month for the rest of my life.
Yep.
As long as I take a breath, they're going to send me a check. And then my spouse is going to get a check after I'm gone for some portion of what I have.
Right.
So, you get a $7,000 a month check. That's over a 10-year period. That's almost $1 million benefit. Over a 20-year period, it's a $2 million benefit. So there's those people that we talk to who have a $2 million IRA that we can't do a lot for, or we have to talk about the options. But there's plenty of folks that we talk to who say, look, I don't have a big pile of money because I'm already getting it in this annuity form from my pension company. So those people have the income and they can live their life and they can do everything they want to do, but we have a different conversation with them. And those are the folks who say, look, I am really anxious to try to get some of these assets out of my name, mostly my house, because I will have plenty of money to live my life, but I don't really care about the house because I'm never going to need the house to fund my retirement because I have a pension.
Yeah.
And that's how those folks
and
are
I don't
looking
want
at
to
it.
do that. I don't want to have to sell my house or do a reverse mortgage. I don't want to use my it's my house, right?
Yep.
In my mindset, like that's my house. I've worked my whole life. I paid off my house. This is mine. This is my house.
And that's somebody who, we talked, you did the numbers before, right? And you said, well, look, if they have a $7,000 a month pension, now if it's a $15,000 a month nursing home bill, aside from the money that your spouse is going to need to live their life, that shortfall has real impact, has real impact.
Yeah.
And that's where that's where Medicaid is a lifeline for somebody in that situation to be able to get the care they need for their loved one in a nursing home in those circumstances.
Right. And if I've done the planning, right, and I said, okay, look, I understand that I could be in a long-term care, my wife, or one of us could be in a long-term care situation at some point. What do we? And this is the conversation that you have with your estate planner, with your your financial planner. You say, look, I really want to keep my house. I want to keep my house. A, because my wife and I live here, and if one of us said, we don't want to move.
Yep.
And B, this is let's say our house is like it's the family house, and we
Sure.
want to leave something to our children.
This is my legacy.
This is the legacy that we're going to live, and we don't, and that's the other thing is we don't see ourselves moving, right? We're not. We
Nope,
don't.
this is
I
it.
don't. I don't. I mean, and that's always a big question when people say, "Oh, I want to put my house in," because Billy at the pool said I need to put my house in a revocable trust. He just did it, and it's like, okay. My first question is, are you going to stay there? Right? Are you staying in that house?
Oh, we frame this conversation as a lifestyle question all the time.
Sure.
And we tell people, look, do not approach this as when one of us goes to the nursing home, because it probably will never happen.
Yeah.
But let's plan. Let's not plan for the negative. Let's plan for the positive. And we'll say to somebody, this is a lifestyle question. If you say to me, this is my forever home, I'm never leaving here, and I want to make sure that this is a legacy that my kids get the house or the money that the house turns into, then an irrevocable trust and some Medicaid pre-planning might be for you.
Might exactly be for you.
If you say, I need the money that this house is going to turn into to live my life, we may go down a different path.
Yeah.
If you say, this is absolutely not my forever home, and I'm going to move, and I want to siphon the money off the top from what I get from selling this and put some of it in my pocket, and then the rest of it will go into my new home, and then that's my legacy, then maybe there's Medicaid planning in your future.
Down the road.
After you sell this place.
Yeah.
So those are the considerations, but those are lifestyle conversations. Are you staying here or are you not staying here? Yes, we're staying here. Or without me, we'll probably get out of the house. And again, we're in New England, right? So if you're staying in New England, you're in Massachusetts,
Yeah.
a lot of these are lateral moves,
Yeah.
right? It's not like, hey, I'm selling my house in Holliston for $700,000 and I'm moving to Natick
Yeah.
and I picked up a place in Natick for $220,000, right? It just doesn't work that way,
No,
right?
no,
it doesn't
no,
work
no.
that way. So you got to figure out
Especially going from Holliston to Natick.
there's a
Maybe,
lateralness to these moves, right? And so you got to, and I'm not even sure it works the other way. I mean, again, there's a lateralness to these moves that needs to kind of be factored in because, you got to live somewhere.
I'm downsizing.
Right?
I'm selling my $750,000 house in Holliston. I'm going to buy a 2-bedroom
Buying
condo in
Downtown Natick?
In Boston.
Even
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
In the Seaport.
Yeah,
That
I'm gonna
new
go,
area. They're giving them away
I'm
over there.
thinking about the Seaport.
They're just trying to fill it up.
Or Southie.
They're just trying to fill
Yeah,
it up.
Southie,
There's no interest.
Yeah,
Yep, there's no
nobody's
interest.
down there. So
Yep.
it's a nice lateral move. As
Yeah,
long as
put you
I
a nice
come up-
condo on Bunker Hill Street for
so I come
for
up with another
$150,000.
$1.5 million on top of my $750,000.
Well, by the way, that's a real that's a great point. You know, you're out here in the burbs, right? And you got a big yard, and you get off-street parking, and you get 4 bedrooms and 8 bathrooms and a finished basement. And then you say, we're making the move to the city.
Oh,
and then you move in town, and you start poking around, and you're like, so this is 350 square feet. You're telling me with all the furniture in here, it feels bigger than that.
Yeah.
It feels bigger than that, right? No. You're going to make that move? I don't know. Yeah. That's the lifestyle.
Well, that's a lifestyle piece, right?
That's right.
So oftentimes though the Medicaid conversation starts because somebody's afraid. They're like, yes. I heard this. I think, is there something we should do? You know, should I buy long-term care insurance? Should I put my house into an irrevocable trust? Should I do that right now?
Sure.
And then it's like, okay, well, back up. Let's talk about what we'll talk about the realities of long-term care. We'll talk about the realities of like nursing home and then the realities of Medicaid, right?
Yeah.
And say, hey, look, you got to, in order, before you get there, we have to spend you down, or you have to somehow get to those numbers that Jay talked about before. And if I do them, and you can run, the Monte Carlo simulation, and you can do all the different kind of contingencies and say, okay, well, if I do A, B, C, D, all the way to Z, then maybe I can get there.
Yep.
Are you ready to do that? Are you ready to spend all your money?
Yeah.
Are you ready to put your money in a place where you necessarily may not have control of it anymore? Not the mass of it.
Right.
And those are big questions. Somebody's 65 years old. I'm like, I'm 65. I'm good to go, right?
I'm bulletproof. I'm going to live another 50 years.
Yeah.
That's right.
But I want to get ahead of this. I want to get like, okay, we can get ahead of it, but are you willing to put your $500,000 brokerage account into an irrevocable trust?
Right.
Which means that $500,000 no longer belongs to you.
You have no control over it.
It can generate income for you, and you could take that income, gladly take that income that it generates. But if you need $50,000 out of there because you want to buy a new Audi, you can't do it.
We're going to go on the Viking River cruise. We get the money in our brokerage account.
No,
we'll
you
get
don't.
the money out of there. No,
you don't.
You will not.
No, you don't.
I mean, no, you will not. No, could it happen? Sure, maybe. Does it blow up the plan?
Well, that's it.
Absolutely, it blows up the plan.
And then the trust that you paid to have done, whatever that goes with. But then you no longer have that Medicaid protection that was the whole intent of this in the first place.
Yeah. How much time do we have before? I want to make sure we don't miss anything. I don't leave it.
We have about 5 minutes.
All right. So that's why I'm asking. So for those of you who are thinking like this, okay, this is how I would suggest you kind of look at this whole situation, right?
I love it.
You've got wealth. Okay, hopefully you've saved your pennies, you've listened to everything that John has said over the last 15 years, and you put a couple of bucks away, okay? So this is how you look at it. You need to live your life. You can't impoverish yourself in an attempt to sort of beat this nursing home boogeyman that may or may not show up. So the best thing to do, I think, is you identify an asset, all right? It's probably real estate, right? Because it just always tends to be real estate, okay? And then you just make some decisions. And the decisions are, if we don't think we're going to need this real estate to fund any part of our retirement, and the goal is to get either the real estate or the money that the real estate might end up with becoming, we want to get that to somebody, the kids, for example, okay? That's a good asset to consider to be part of some protected trust that you get out of your name. And then you have to keep a whole bunch of money back because life is expensive. And you may stay in that house that you want.
Money.
That's exactly right. And you may stay in that house that you want those kids to get. And you may need to pay for care to come into the house that those kids are going to get. And you may move out of that house and you may move into an assisted living facility. And that costs money, right? They're not inexpensive. And you might make the progress or the journey through there. You might end up in a memory care unit. You don't go right to the nursing home. It's not a light switch. Sometimes it is, but most cases it's not. So you want to be able to use, you need to keep some money back to protect yourself and to keep the care available for you. And then at some point down the road, if you're going to do gifting and things like that, you have to do it with this idea that there's an eye on, I have a 5-year window where this could be a problem. All very doable that don't involve impoverishing yourself and creating a legacy. And if you never go to a nursing home, it all goes where you want it to anyway. That's really, I think, how you need to think about this.
Yeah, and remember, although it's a real thing, and if you're in a situation where you're in where someone needs long-term care, whether it be assisted living or whether it be a nursing home, it's going to cost money. And if you have money, and you haven't qualified for Medicaid, then you're going to have to pay for it, and it's either going to come out of your salary, it's going to come out of your savings, or it's going to come out of a combination of both.
Sure.
So life costs money, right?
Yep.
And this is just another kind of step in life. So, if you kind of get wrapped around the axle where I'm worried so much about that. I'm so worried about I don't want to give my money to the nursing home. I don't want to give my money,
sure,
to the assisted living facility. You got to live somewhere, right? So
yeah.
So your like Jay just said, like your livelihood, your retirement, your day-to-day, your living, that supersedes kind of this nursing home, Medicaid, assisted living planning. Like that comes first. Look, I'll be the first one to tell you, I love when people save money, but at the same time, money was made to be spent.
Yeah.
Not all all
frivolously.
Not all at Jay's.
Mostly on lawyers and financial advisors. But I mean, look, the nursing home. A nursing home is $180,000 a year if it's $15,000 a month. Okay, there might be a conversation that says, you know what, we could bring in a full-time caregiver.
Yeah.
For $50.
Yep.
Right, in your home, sitting in your blanket on your TV, watching Law and Order. Right? In your own settings.
Yeah.
And we have a spare bedroom, and we have a caregiver, and the caregiver makes $4,000 a month.
Well, that's how the long-term...
Those are real options.
But that's how the long-term care rarely is like, I'm here and then I fall
Correct.
off the cliff. So it's a gradual process that starts usually with in-home care. And then, now we need to go to assisted living.
Correct.
Because assisted living costs less than and you may not need all of the care that is involved in a nursing home.
Assisted living usually costs less than a nursing home, but that delta is changing, and that delta is getting very, very narrow. So there may be an argument that says, look, we're going to try to play out this home care situation much longer than we might have 5 or 6 years ago, and we have the resources to do it. Now, there's a whole bunch of other factors. You want people in your house, blah, blah, blah. Does it work? That's fine. But that's the discussion, right? And this is where working with good financial advisors, right, like John, this is where having a conversation with your lawyer to say, this is kind of, and by the way, we'll point you in the direction of a good case care manager who's going to pull this whole plan together and say, these are all the options that we need to explore. And so I guess the takeaway from this is it's not all doom and gloom. There's lots of options. You just need to be willing to sort of engage with the right people who can kind of guide you through this process. Medicaid is always the deep pocket. There are situations where I've said to somebody, the good news is, unfortunately, that mom's going to a nursing home. The good news is at least we have a way to pay for her care because the care needs are so great. Some of these things we've already talked about are not options. Yeah. We can't do care in the home. We can't do an assisted living facility. We can't do a memory care unit. So the nursing home is the right, unfortunate, best place to be, and at least there's a deep pocket there. This is how this whole thing comes together.
Yeah, and when you're talking about it, when you're doing your planning, long before this happens, you've at least kind of addressed this possibility. Say, look, how does your retirement change? Your retirement change when you guys get to be 95 years old.
Yep.
And you can't do what you're doing. You just can't. You can't operate at the same speed. You're going to need help. You may be, and God willing, you're still alive and you have your faculties. You may need more help. And you get to that point where, if you get there, when or whenever that happens and these changes happen, it's going to cost money.
Yeah.
And it's going to and I get you don't want to give all your money to the nursing home, but that may be where your life takes you.
Well, and that's the other part. You need to think about this now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have this conversation with yourself now. Understand your A plan, B plan, your C plan, because that's what you're going to be dealing with.
Yeah, and with everything you assume risk, right? You invest money in the stock market, that says, there's a chance that I could lose all of the money I just put into the stock market, right?
Yep.
And so when you do the same kind of planning, like, look, okay, I have, X amount of dollars of retirement money. There is a chance that I could end up in a nursing home. There is a chance that I could end up in a long-term care situation, and I will have to pay for that. So I have the choice. So right now, can I mitigate that risk by putting all my money into an irrevocable trust right now and losing control of all my money if I get to that? So and wait 5 years and get to that situation. Yes, I could do that, but is that worth it? Is it worth it to do that and give up all that control, or or is it more worth it for me to assume the risk that potentially I may get there, and then if I do get there, I'll have the ability to pay, and I'll do some like preliminary Medicaid planning now, but not anything that's going to be overly restrictive.
And the other thing I would suggest too is stop, to a certain degree, as best you can, stop comparing notes with friends with friends.
Can't do it
because everyone's on a different trajectory. It's hard to compare with people who have either they've inherited money, they're in a pension system, you're in a 401k system. Everyone's situation is different, and so you don't want to be in a position where you're doing things because these people did it, because you might not know the entire story, right? So this is really specific to you and your planning, and we find it very helpful for you to understand. For people who say, look, I want to keep all the money and do my own stuff, we say, look, good, more power to you. Yeah. That's your decision. When your friends are telling you about all these asset protection things that they did, that's different. They're doing it for their own reasons. You don't know their reasons. Don't worry about it. Ignore it. Kind of seek your own counsel on that stuff.
And I oftentimes I'll find myself explaining what exactly they're doing. I put all my money into this annuity because if I get in a situation, I can always annuitize that. And I'm okay, that's great. And you're right. This is a potential option for what an annuity can do. However, understand that if your nursing home costs $15,000 a month, and you get $5,000 a month from your pension, and you annuitize your annuity, and it gives $10,000 a month. Guess who's getting that money? The nursing home.
That's absolutely right. That's income.
That's income. It's going to them.
They love. That's what they love.
So, all right. So we got to wrap this up.
Great takeaway.
Good show. Good show. I'm feeling good about it. Even though we're talking about Medicaid, you know what?
It's good to know.
We're far away.
Knowledge is power, baby. Knowledge is power.
Yeah, and everybody feels much more powerful right now.
That's right.
But don't feel too powerful when you're driving. Drive defensively. It's important.
Drive later.
All right. We'll see everybody next week on Money and the Law on My FM 101.3 and the Hollis and Hub. Tommy, we'll see you next time. Jay, we'll see you next time.
Always a pleasure.
Everybody have a great weekend.
Thanks, everybody.